I stopped chasing their applause when I learned the sky doesn't clap. My name is Nora Vance, and family dinners always felt like stepping into a play where I'd been miscast. The night of my father's 65th birthday at Willow Manor, the air was thick with pretense, crystal chandeliers, clinking glasses, and my sister Clara holding court like a queen. She wore her sapphire pendant, flashing that practiced smile she saved for moments when she could remind everyone she was the daughter who stayed. I sat at the table's far end, next to a chair that stayed empty all night. Clara raised her wineglass, her voice cutting through the soft violin music. Well, look who showed up. I was starting to think Nora only existed in emails from some classified nowhere. The table laughed, uncles, cousins, even the plus ones who barely knew my name. I smiled, not because I cared, but because I knew something they didn't. Before the night ended, someone would walk through that door, look at me with eyes that saw everything, and shift the ground beneath their feet. Let Clara have her moment. I'd learned long ago, when someone's about to trip over their own ego, you don't push, you just step back and let them fall. Clara always got the bigger slice. Not a figure of speech. At my 9th birthday, Mom cut the chocolate cake with blue icing swirls. Clara got the edge piece, dripping with extra fudge. Mine was a plain square, no frills. I stared at our plates and thought, so this is how it goes. Growing up, Clara was the star, cheer captain, honor roll, photos framed on the mantle. I was the quiet one, sketching helicopters in my math notebook, reading about Bessie Coleman while Clara perfected her lip gloss technique. She danced at homecoming with the lacrosse star. I spent weekends at the airstrip outside town, wiping grease off old Cessnas just to breathe the smell of fuel. It wasn't that I didn't succeed. I graduated high school early, joined ROTC, earned my wings before I was 21. But my family never saw it as anything worth toasting. Flying's not exactly practical, Nora, Mom said when I got into the Naval Academy. Dad just turned the page of his newspaper. Clara, meanwhile, married a CPA at 23, had twins by 25, and bought a brick house 3 streets from our parents. Her Instagram was a shrine to matching Easter dresses and blessed captions. She commented on her own posts first. I came home when I could, Thanksgiving here, Easter there. Most years, I was stationed abroad, training pilots in deserts where the sun burned through your soles or leading drills in skies so vast they swallowed sound. The last time I visited, I brought a photo of me in front of an F-18, shaking hands with a Rear Admiral. I handed it to Dad. He nodded, said, neat, and by dessert, it was buried under takeout menus. I stopped sharing after that. At dinners, Clara filled the quiet with stories about her book club or her HOA battles. I'd nod, sip my tea, and fade into the tablecloth. Once, during a Christmas I'd barely made it home for, I wore my dress blues because my flight landed late. Clara smirked. Nora, that uniform makes you look like you're auditioning for a war movie. Is it supposed to scare people? I said, it's called authority. She laughed like I'd missed the punchline. What they never asked about, what they never saw, was the cost. Sleepless nights in overseas hangars, simulators that judged you by fractions of a second, the weight of decisions made at Mach 1. I carried it silently, not for praise, but because it was mine. Still, I'd be lying if I said I never wanted them to see me, just once. So when the goldfoil invite for Dad's birthday arrived, black tie, private venue, RSVP by courier, I said yes. Not to play along, but to close a door. Something in me had settled, like the hum of an engine locking into gear. The first time I was saluted, I froze, certain it was a mistake. I'd just made commander during officer training. The ensign stood rigid, hand at her brow. I returned it, hiding the shock that someone saw me as worth that gesture. By the time I became a captain, I'd grown into it, not the ceremony, but the duty. I led squadrons through high-stakes NATO exercises, training elite pilots for covert ops at altitudes where the air feels like glass. My current posting was classified, a joint program so discreet I couldn't tell my family where I woke up each morning. When my unit made headlines in Flight Ops Review, I didn't send it home. I'd stopped offering pieces of myself after the photo vanished under junk mail. The restaurant dripped opulence, velvet drapes, waiters in tuxedos, a string quartet in the corner. I arrived on time, wearing a sleek black dress, hair swept up, no uniform. The hostess led me to the table, where my family was already on their second round of bruschetta. Dad mumbled, "Hey, kid." Mom glanced up, then back to her napkin. Clara stood for a half hug, whispering, "So glad you could pencil us in, Miss Mystery." I sat beside a cousin's fiancé who asked what I did, then dropped it when I said aerospace training. Clara launched into a saga about her new kitchen remodel, how hard it was picking quartz countertops. When an aunt asked if she'd ever leave town, Clara sighed. Someone's gotta stick around for Mom and Dad. Not everyone can vanish into the ether. The table chuckled. I folded my hands and waited. Dessert arrived, some lavender-infused crème brûlée Clara had raved about. Then a waiter approached, voice low but clear. "Captain Vance, you have a guest in the foyer. They're here for a secure delivery." The room stilled. Clara's fork hovered. "Delivery? What, is it a medal?" she teased. I stood. "Just paperwork." Every eye followed me as I crossed the room, heels steady on polished wood. In the foyer stood Lieutenant Carter, flight suit crisp, posture flawless. She saw me, stepped forward, and saluted sharply. "Captain Vance, ma'am. Documents secured. Admiral Hayes sends her regards." The air shifted. I heard a spoon clink back at the table. I returned the salute, precise, unhurried. "Thank you, Lieutenant." At ease. She handed me a sealed envelope. I nodded, and she stepped back, still at attention as I turned. Back at the table, Clara's smile was gone. Mom clutched her pearls. Dad coughed into his napkin. I slid the envelope into my bag, took a bite of dessert, and said, "Sorry for the pause." "Please, continue." No one did. Clara tried. "Well, that was theatrical. Do people really salute like that?" Her voice cracked. I didn't answer. An uncle leaned in. "Captain? You're a captain?" I nodded. 17 years in. The number landed like a stone. Clara fidgeted. "I didn't know." "You never said." "You never asked," I said, soft but clear. Mom spoke up. "Why didn't you tell us? We'd have done something." I tilted my head. "Like when you sent a text after I made lieutenant? Congrats, stay safe," then asked if I could chip in for Clara's new patio set. Mom's face fell. Clara's voice sharpened. "You act like we've shut you out. You chose to vanish, Nora. We didn't know where you were." "I didn't vanish," I said. "I just stopped begging to be seen." I stood, smoothing my dress. "Thank you for the invite. I have a briefing at 0500. Enjoy the rest." As I walked out, Lieutenant Carter held the door, her nod a quiet anchor. I paused, turning to the table. I fly with people who don't need my whole story to respect what I built. I used to want that here. I don't anymore. Outside, the air was sharp, clean. I drove away, the Manor's glow fading in my rearview. Clara didn't call. No one did. Back at base, dawn broke as I stepped onto the runway, cadets waiting, eyes steady. They didn't care about my sister's kitchen or my mom's texts. They cared about my orders, my calm, my trust. Clara might spin this night into a story, how I stole the show. Let her. I'm not here for her spotlight. I'm here for the horizon, the mission, and the quiet that feels like home.